This week, Donald Trump said out loud from the Oval Office what no American president has said in 80 years.
Spain has been very, very uncooperative, and so has UK. Now, the second one is shocking, but this is not the age of Churchill. I will say the UK has been very, very uncooperative with that, and they ruin relationships. It's a shame.
But the president didn't just publicly trash Britain from the Oval Office. He outflanked Britain's chaos operation in the Strait of Hormuz. When Lloyds of London announced it was terminating insurance for Gulf shipping, a move which could throw the world economy into chaos, President Trump ordered the United States Development Finance Corporation to step in and provide that coverage. And he put the Navy on notice to escort tankers through the strait. What you're watching is an American president who doesn't need Britain's permission to strike Iran and doesn't need Britain's insurance markets to keep the world's oil moving. 300 years of crown control over that choke point broken in a single day. Now, if you've been watching the news this week, you're being told America is stumbling into another Middle Eastern quagmire, that it's going to be a perpetual war, economic chaos, and it's a president who doesn't know what he's doing. That's the drumbeat from the same people who cheered on every British-backed regime change operation of the last 30 years. I'm Susan Kokinda. I've tracked how the British have used Iran as a trigger for economic and strategic chaos since the days of the gas lines, and I've watched every president since Jimmy Carter let it happen, until now. So if you want to keep up with this historic change, hit those like, subscribe, and share buttons so we can stay in touch and expand our reach. So here's what we're going to be covering today. First, Donald Trump's very public rupture with Britain, which is not just on the issue of Iran. Second, why Trump's move against Lloyds of London is one of the most consequential economic strikes in this entire fight. And third, how Iran's attacks on its own Gulf neighbors handed Trump a sovereign nation coalition that the old imperial system was designed to prevent. So let's go back to the Oval Office. The trigger was Iran. Britain blocked the United States from using Diego Garcia and British Air Force bases for the opening strikes of Operation Epic Fury. Trump had to reroute missions, adding hours of flight time. So when he sat down with German Chancellor Merz on Tuesday, he didn't hold back.
I'm not happy with the UK either. That island that you read about, the lease, okay, he made it for whatever reason, he made a lease of the island. Somebody came and took it away from him. And it's taken 3-4 days for us to work out where we can land there. It would have been much more convenient landing there as opposed to flying many extra hours. So we are very surprised.
Despite the fact that Britain relented on March 1st and allowed the U.S. limited use of its bases for defensive purposes, Prime Minister Keir Starmer drilled down on Britain's opposition to Trump's actions in Iran, speaking to Parliament.
We all remember the mistakes of Iraq, and we have learned those lessons. Any UK actions must always have a lawful basis and a viable, thought-through plan. I say again, we were not involved in the initial strikes on Iran, and we will not join offensive action now.
He said, "We all remember the mistakes of Iraq." That is pretty rich coming from the land of Tony Blair. But then the Prime Minister dutifully reported the talking point, which came from the Empire's think tank, Chatham House, a few days ago. He said, "This government does not believe in regime change from the skies." What Starmer has repeated is the globalist narrative that Donald Trump is using their regime change playbook and it's not going to work. Well, their problem is that's not what he's doing. So while the strategic split between the United States and the British is out in the open, there is more to Trump's break with the British.
But the UK, what they're doing with energy and what they're doing with immigration is horrible. You have the North Sea. Somebody said yesterday, what would you do if you were the UK? Open up the North Sea. They got windmills all over the place that are ruining the country, ruining the landscapes, ruining the beautiful fields. Open up the North Sea. And number two, illegal immigration. They got to solve that problem.
Windmills, immigration, those aren't military complaints. That is a systemic indictment of the British model. Green energy deindustrialization is the pet project of the British royal family. King Charles has made it his personal mission, including through Lloyds, as we'll get to. And unfettered mass immigration is a frontal assault on the coherence of society itself, and Donald Trump has rejected both. Now, look who was sitting next to Donald Trump at that press availability: German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, who backed the U.S. position on Iran and who recently stated that shutting down Germany's nuclear power plants was a catastrophic mistake. Merz is signaling that Germany wants to exit the managed energy decline that the British imperial system has imposed on Europe. So for the first time since World War II, an American president is treating Germany as a more reliable partner than Britain, not out of sentiment, but because Britain remains committed to the imperial system which Trump is dismantling, while Germany, under Merz, is signaling it wants out. Now, Spain does get a footnote. Trump told Treasury Secretary Bessent to cut off all trade with Madrid for refusing base access and dodging NATO commitments. Donald Trump is not fooling around. So the U.S.-British conflict that we've been exposing for decades is now playing out in the open, from the Oval Office to the Strait of Hormuz. If you want to